To have a special feature today at halftime. Peter Schwab, formerly chairman of the Match Review Panel, is now the Chief Executive Officer of AFL Victoria, which is the new name for what was previously Football Victoria. And we thought we'd put him under the griller, and who better to do that with than Phil Cleary. Phil, good afternoon. Lovely to see you here.
Lovely to have you in my earpiece, Peter. And look, it's rather special for me actually to be here. I started my career with Coburg in 1975, played my first game here, and Peter Schwab, lovely to see you. And I got taken off in the last quarter and I walked the boundary and a bloke said to me, "Not good enough, Cleary." Did you ever have that experience yourself?
Yeah, I did, often. I got hit one day coming off the ground, believe it or not, by a spectator. So
yeah, they were pretty lively in the old VFA. And there's always a bit of symmetry in footy, Pete, when, we do the march through football. And I go back now 20 years. 20 years ago, right now in April, you were celebrating a premiership with Hawthorn, and I was lamenting a loss to Williamstown.
Yeah, it's a long time, Phil, isn't it? The years they just go, and you wonder sometimes it's like a lifetime ago. But no, I've had a great involvement in sport, and particularly football, and looking forward to the next, 5, 10, maybe 15 years.
Yes, the years do march on quickly. Now, the 80s was a very special time for you in the sense, without reminiscing, but it was a time when you learned a lot about the fabric of football clubs, and we're talking rivalry week at the moment. So what was it really like to be at Hawthorn and the like?
Oh, it was fabulous. I mean, for a young boy who followed them as a kid, to come down there and play with my boyhood idols in Matthews, Knights, Tuck, Kelvin Moore. Sorry if I've left anyone out, but it was a fantastic environment, and John Kennedy was still around, and David Parkin was my first coach, and then it rolled on to Alan Jeans, who's probably the biggest influence on my football. So I was just fortunate. We had a great bunch of guys with a lot of talent, and there was no National League then, so we were able to get the Buckenara, Platten, players of that ilk into the club. So yeah, it was a great time.
And those experiences of premierships, 3, and of course you missed the 89 premiership, you were suspended at the time, are considered by people to be key elements in a bloke's character and what he learns about the game. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree, and probably the people around me. And I think anyone who goes into a football club goes in for a few reasons. They go in for a sense of belonging, there's a sense of community, for friendship. And I think if you're lucky, you get great role models in football clubs. And probably in my case, my father was a great influence. I wasn't missing male mentors. But I think now there's a lot of great people in football clubs, and you learn a lot off them.
So this sort of leads me into the big discussion we need to have about the VFL. You're a man that understands the fabric of the competition. You've jumped into the VFL at a time when there is a lot of controversy about where it sits in the footy world. And so why did you take the VFL? And I know you did discuss the job at Carlton, a footy management kind of role there. Yeah,
I mean, look, my role is with AFL Victoria. The VFL's a huge part of that, but, just to emphasises other aspects of the business, such as the talent pathways, the participation, etc. I saw it as a chance to have an involvement in football on a really wide scale in this state, which is, let's not kid ourselves, this is still the heartland of the game. The VFL is still a great competition. I think the controversy you're talking about has come around because we're hearing about the second-tier review. We understand that that's happening. We know that you've got to review your operations to see whether you're doing the right things. So in many ways we're not at the mercy, but we're waiting to see what that review throws up. But in the meantime, we're here to say that this is a great competition. We're supportive of it, and we're supportive of all the teams who currently make it up.
Well, Nick Burke, president of the Amateurs, who I suppose is under your auspice because you look after AFL Victoria, he came out and was scathing in his criticism in his introductory speech about the 2007 season, wondered where the VFL was going, believes it doesn't have a role or to be integrated with the AFL, maybe the reserves should take over. Well, how do you respond to that?
Well, there's a lot of issues that Nick raised, but look, I know Nick. First, let me say that the VFA, the Amateurs is a fantastic competition, as we've got great competitions right around the state, and we know they do the wonderful work for footy, so that's said. But Nick's got to understand, look, in a simple term, this competition breaks even, so it's not costing if you want to look at pure costs. It generates a lot of income for the expenditure that goes to it. And the other thing is it's a pathway. I still believe it's a strong pathway for young talent, and I still think we need a definite second-tier state-based footy program underneath the AFL like we see in all the other states. So let's not kid ourselves. We've got to have a second-tier competition in Victoria, and I think this is the right vehicle. It might need some tweaking, and we'll wait and see what the review throws up.
Was Nick Burke grandstanding when he stuck the boots into the VFL?
No, I don't think anyone grandstands. I think everyone comes from their own position. So everyone's got an agenda, and everyone sees what they're doing as being super important. So, look, they run a great competition, and we're very supportive of that competition.
All right, what about the branding of the competition, Peter? You understand how emotional football is. When you left the Hawks after, more than 20 years, when you lost the coaching role, you talked about how heartbroken you were by it. I'm heartbroken that my competition, the VFA, has taken on the name of a competition that was its rival for years, and I find it confusing in a branding sense. Do you understand why people like me are upset about that?
Yeah, I understand that, Phil. And I guess it also comes down, and I hate to say this, it comes down a lot of the time to money. And, I guess the VFA was financially restricted and in a lot of trouble, as were the clubs. So I think it stems pretty much from those times. I don't think, and I hope it hasn't lost its touch with the community. I don't think it has. It's great to see Port Melbourne playing here against Williamstown. I know through my father the historical rivalry between these two clubs was phenomenal. We want to keep these clubs going, and we want to keep them strong in the VFL. But look, I understand, I appreciate, but I guess all I can say is it moves on, and we're all under pressure from branding. I guess the AFL's the biggest branding aspect of football now, and Victoria's changed its name. Look, it's a sign of the times, so I just...
OK, well, look, just another important question to me is that I said in Inside Football the other week, will Peter Schwab be a yes man for the AFL, or will he be our man in the VFL? Will he speak for us? Will he confront Demetrio and others and tell them that our comp matters?
Firstly, I do read your articles, Phil. I read that. My first answer to that is I'm a football man, to be honest, and every decision, I think, has always got to be made in what's the best interest for football. Of course, I've got a vested interest in this VFL, and I'll speak very strongly on behalf of the VFL and its clubs. And that's pretty much all I can answer to that question you put.
So you got some creative ideas to get people to come back to this beautiful settings like this, to love the suburban game, to get out and watch the coaches? You got some ideas?
Well, that's a challenge. I think it's showed some innovation with accepting some rule changes that we want to trial, and maybe we're trialling them for the bigger picture, but we're also trialling it for the lower down. Look, people are throwing up ideas to me about playing a night final, and maybe we look at when we play football. But generally, I think the product's good, so we don't want to muck around too much with the product. But I'm open for any ideas going to improve the crowds, I guess, and the interest in the game. Like ABC, well done, and True Energy, who the major sponsor. So anyone who gets behind the VFL, we're very appreciative of it.
We could talk for hours, people. We're out of time. It's great to talk with you. You're a good man. You understand the fabric of the competition. I think we'll be in safe hands.
Thanks, Phil.
Yes, indeed. He is a good man, Peter Schwab, the Chief Executive Officer of the AFL Victoria, speaking there with Phil Cleary. Well, we're going to